Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video is step number 1 in our crochet along, and what we're going to be making is the summer solstice cotton poncho. We're going to be starting with some squares, and I'm going to show you how to make the squares today, and then we will not have a video tomorrow. Step number 2 will be Wednesday, and I'm going to show you how to put your crochet squares together to form the shape of the poncho. Then in step number 3, we're going to work on the neckline of the poncho. And then in step number 4, Friday, we're going to do the hem or the bottom of the poncho. Now, you won't be able to see the completed project until Friday. And so if you want to wait until the crochet along is finished so that you can see the finished one on Friday, that's totally okay. But I really would like it if you would crochet along with me each day so I could see your projects. Now, if you want to post pictures of your progress, you can do that on our Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and search for Coffee and Crochet with Sara group. And then you can join the group and post your pictures. And of course, you can post pictures of any of your crochet items anytime that you want to in that group. All right, so as we work along on our crochet along, I will put the blog link down in the notes underneath this video with all the pictures and the written pattern and extra little notes and measurements and things as well. Now, each day, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll do a new video. All of that information will be added to that blog, so make sure you refresh that blog page each day. All right? All right, let's find out what we need to make our summer solstice cotton poncho. To make our poncho, we're going to be using cotton sprout. Now, I chose these 3 colors. On the Premier web page, you can find, I think, 32 different solid colors and I think 9 variegated colors that you can do your poncho with. Also, you can use the hipster cotton because what we're going to be doing is using a light number 3 weight cotton. All right. I chose to go with this light number 3 because I want this poncho to be light and airy. All right. So I'm using 3 different colors. And so I'm going to need 2 balls of blue, 2 balls of green. This is a cornflower blue. This is lime. And this is yellow. 2 balls of each of them. Each ball has 230 yards or 3.5 ounces. Okay. So what you're going to need is a total of 6 balls of your cotton light number 3 yarn. Now, if you want to purchase these through Premier, I'll put that link down in the notes under the video, and you can just click on that link and search cotton sprout. Make sure you get the 3 weight though, because they also make a really wonderful 4 weight as well. So you're going to need 6 balls of lightweight number 3 cotton sprout. And if you choose to go with the hipster cotton, you'll need 6 of those as well. All right? All righty. Now we're going to stitch with our eye hook today, and that's a 5.5, which usually when we use a light 3, we don't use an eye. But again, I want this to be light, airy, and loose. You can see my stitches are loose. Okay? And that's why we're using the 5.5, which is the eye hook crochet hook. You need a needle for weaving in ends, and then you need a pair of scissors. Now, before we get started making our squares, let's talk about sizing. Now, I have written the pattern in 4 sizes. We have an extra small, small, we have a medium large, we have an extra large 2X, and a 3X, 4X. And the way this is determined has to do with how many of these solid rows you do on the end, okay, of each of your squares. So what that does is it makes the neck opening smaller or larger. All right, so if you're making the extra small, your neck opening is going to be approximately 23 inches. And that's measuring after we add those rows around the top of our neck opening. If you're making the medium large, your neck opening is going to be 33 inches. If you're making the extra large 2X, your neck opening is going to be 43 inches. And if you're making the 3X, 4X, it's going to be 53 inches. Now, that's the neck opening so that it fits well. As far as the length, that's totally up to you. If you want to make it, say, a ponchette and make it shorter, when we do the hem on Friday, you'll do less rows. If you want it nice and long and drapey, you can do more rows. All right, and so that's how the sizing for this pattern works. Now, for all 4 of the sizes, you're going to need to make 6 squares. We'll use 3 on the front and 3 on the back and then put them together. All right, let's get started with our first square. We'll start with our slip knot and we'll chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to join this into a circle, so we'll put the yarn over our hook and pull that through, snug that down, and tie that stay knot. If you prefer to use the magic circle or another method for making your circle, you certainly can. Now we're going to go in, pull up a loop, and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This chain 5 counts as a triple chain 1. Now we're going to put 2 wraps on our hook, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, yarn over and go through the third 2, and chain 1. So that's our triple chain 1. And we're going to repeat this till we have 12 sets of 1 triple chain 1. And because we're using triples on this pattern, it's going to stitch up super quick. All 4 sizes begin the same. Where the sizes change is on those last few rows in making our squares larger or smaller. I am actually making the extra large 2X size just because I want mine to be big and loopy, lacy, comfortable. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need to stitch 2 more. 11. And this one is 12. Chain 1. We're going to join to the 4th chain of that beginning chain 5 with a slip stitch. All right, now we're going to slip stitch in the chain 1 space and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'm going to do, and I like to do this when I begin, is turn it over, pull gently on that hole or that string to close the hole. Let me open the end of that. Sometimes when working with cotton, if you open up the end of the yarn a little bit and fold it over, it's a lot easier to get on the needle. All right, let me make a loop there and move my hook out of the way. And I'm just going to go ahead and weave that center in. That way I don't have to worry about it again. I can just go back and forth, make sure that hole's closed, going through stitches and fibers. There we go. And then I don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do it right then. You can do it later if you want to. All right, so for round 1 of our square, I almost said crochet along, it is crochet along. We have 12 sets of triple stitches, chain 1. All right, let's do round 2. So we chained 4, which counts as a triple. We're going to stitch another triple in this same chain 1 space and chain 1. And so what we're doing on this row is we're stitching 2 triples in each of the chain 1 spaces and a chain 1. One and 2 and chain 1. Go to the next chain 1 space, 1 triple, 2 triples, and chain 1. And that's our repeat around. 2 triples in each of the chain 1 spaces and then chain 1. We will repeat this working all the way around and join back to our chain 4. 2 triples, chain 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces around. So I have repeated 2 triples, chain 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces around, so we have 12 sets. So now what we're going to do is we're going to join to the 4th chain, or the chain 4, with a slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch in the triple, and then slip stitch in the chain 1 space and chain 4. Now for round 3, we're going to be making the corners of our square. So this chain 4 counts as our first triple. We're going to stitch another triple. We're going to chain 2 and stitch 2 more triples in this same chain 1 space. And then we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Now we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch 2 triples. 1, 2, and 2 chains, or chain 2. And we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch 2 triples. That got a little loose. Let's do that again. Sometimes when you wrap your triple loops to make your triples, you get them a little loose, and I do that sometimes. All right, and chain 2. And so that's our first side. We have our corner, and then our 2 sets. We got chain 2, 2 triples, chain 2, 2 triples, and chain 2. All right, so now we'll go to the next chain 2 space and make another corner. So we'll stitch 2 triples, 1, whoops, get on there, 2, chain 2, and 2 triples. 1 and 2. There we go. And chain 2. Now we'll go to the next chain 2 space and stitch 2 triples. And chain 2. Then we'll go to the next chain 2 space, stitch 2 triples, and chain 2. So now we've done our second side in forming our corners. And now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat what we did here. 2 triples, chain 2, 2 triples, chain 2, 2 triples in the next chain 2 space, chain 2, 2 triples in the next chain 2 space, and chain 2. And you'll repeat that 2 more times to form our square. And then we'll join back to our chain 4. So I have repeated this 2 more times. So I have my 4 corners and then 2 sets of 2 double crochets with the chain 1 or chain 2s in between. And you can see now that it's a square. One thing you will find is that it's a very loose square, and that's what we're going for in this poncho. Loose and comfortable and a little bit lacy. All right, so here's my chain 2. I'm going to join to the chain 4 with a slip stitch. I'm going to go in the next triple with the slip stitch, and then in that chain 2 space with a slip stitch and chain 4. All right, so now we're going to do sort of what we do with a basic granny square. We're going to do the square, the corner the same. So I've got 2 triples, chain 2, and 2 triples. And I know in a basic granny square, we usually do 3 double crochets. So it's not exactly the same, of course, but it's the same idea, only with triples and with 2. All right, so we're going to chain 2. And then in these 3 chain 2 spaces, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2. So we're building our square. And that's what makes this pattern so simple and easy, is it doesn't have any fancy stitches. It's just the way that we make it that makes it look so fancy. All right, so here's my first corner, 2 triples, chain 2, 2 triples. Then we chain 2 and 2 double crochets in those 3 chain 2 spaces. Then chain 2, and that brings us to our corner. And then we'll just repeat that. Whoops, make sure I got 2 wraps on there. 1, 2. Overwrapping there. 1, 2 triples, chain 2, and 2 triples. And chain 2. And then again, we'll put 2 triples in each of those 2, or chain 2, I was going to say 2 chains, chain 2 spaces. Just like we did on that first side. My brain keeps wanting to do double crochets because I think that's what I do the most. But I really wanted this to be in triples because, again, I want it to be loose and lacy and comfortable. Look perfect over a bathing suit or a crop top or a tank top or even a sundress. Lots of things that we can do. All right, so now that we're on round 4, we have our corners exactly the same. 2 triples, chain 2, and 2 triple. And then on our side, we're doing chain 2, 2 triples in each of the 3 chain 2 spaces, and chain 2. And then we'll repeat what we did here on these next 2 sides, and again join back to our chain 4. So I have completed round 4 of our square. We have our corners the same with 2 triples, chain 2, and 2 triples. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of our chain 2s and 3 sets of 2 triples. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is join to our chain 4 with a slip stitch. We'll slip stitch in our triple and then slip stitch in our chain 2 space and chain 4. All right, and so round 5 is just the same as round 4. We just have more sets of our 2 triples, chain 2. And again, the first 5 rows are exactly the same for all sizes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our corner the same. We'll make our second triple. Chain 2 and 2 triples for the corner because that's going to be the same. chain 2, and then we'll move across, placing 2 triples in each of the chain 2 spaces. With chain 2s. Chain 2, 2 triples in the chain 2 space, and chain 2, 2 triples, and chain 2. And so for row 5, we're going to end up having 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 2 triples and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of chain 2 spaces. And again, for all 4 sizes, the first 5 rows are done exactly the same. So I'll just continue around as we've been doing, only I'll have more sets of my 2 triples, chain 2 on my sides. Again, the corners are stitched exactly the same. So I have completed round 5 of my granny square triples. We have, of course, our corners, which are the same, 2 triples, chain 2, 2 triples, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of our 2 triples with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of our chain 2 on each side. For all sizes, this is the same. Now, this next row, again, is going to be all the same, but if you're making the extra small and small size, you're only going to do 1 more row. And the way this is done is we're going to do a solid row of triples. The corners will be the same, but we'll be stitching solid triples across our sides. All right, so we'll go ahead and do our corner, not our side, our corner first, of course. Chain 2, and then 2 triples. There we go. All right, so now we're going to be stitching a solid row of triples. So we'll stitch a triple in these 2 triples. We'll stitch 2 triples in the chain 2 space. One triple in each of the 2 triples. Oops, get in there. And 2 triples in the chain 2 space. And we'll do this all the way across our row. And this will give us a solid row of triple stitches. Oops. See how that's working? We're just stitching 1 triple in each of the triples and 2 triples in the chain 2 spaces. And this will give us, like I said, a solid row of triples all the way around our square. There we go. Now we're to the last 2 triples before our chain 2 in our corner. All right, so now we're in that chain 2 space for the corner, and we'll stitch it exactly the same. 2 triples. Chain 2 and 2 triples. And so now we'll just stitch across a solid row of triples like we did on this side. 1 triple in each of the triples, 2 triples in each of the chain 2 spaces. And we'll repeat this, working all the way around and join back over here on our chain 4. So I have completed round 6, where we have a solid row of our triples around the edge. And if you are making the extra small size, this is where you'll stop your squares. If you're making the medium large size, you're going to do another row of triples around. If you're going to do the extra large 2X, you're going to do 2 rows of solid triples around. And if you're doing the 3X, 4X, you're going to do another row where you'll end up with 4 rows of triples around. Let's talk about the sizing just a little bit more. If you're doing the extra small size, you're going to stop on this row, and this is row 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you're making the medium large size, you're going to stop on row 7. If you're making the extra large 2X, you're going to stop on row 8. And if you're making the 3X, 4X, you'll do one more row, row 9 of these solid rows. Okay, now you don't have to do your last row in a different color. I just did mine that way because I thought that it would be fun. Now remember, you need to make 6 squares. Now for the poncho, you're going to need 6 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll need 3 for the front and 3 for the back. All right, you'll make them all the same size for the size that you're making. All right, so I'll see you for part 2, and we'll put our squares together.